So this is the kind of thing you get to do with YouTube that you don't get to do with the regular face-to-face presentation. This is take two, so we'll see if this is any better than take one. Take one was just fine, but I just thought I'd try and put two of them up, and people could comment on different ones, and I say slightly different things each time. I do have notes, but I'm not reading verbatim, so this is one of the affordances one could take advantage of in doing a presentation by YouTube. I appreciate your patience. I only have 10 minutes. That's the limit on YouTube, so that's useful to both of us. I think there's some real questions about what we might mean by a core in or best books in psychology. Best in that they solve some serious problem for humanity. Best in they made some discovery that was never discovered before. Read so widely and that it influenced scholars in multiple disciplines or widely influenced the entire discipline. Were recognized by awards by key editors, were reviewed many times, were national bestsellers, best for the general reader, best for the general public, best for the educated scholar, best for the core researcher. These questions can't be answered for a recent book because it often takes a few years at least for the value of the book to be established. And if we think about language translation issues, that period can be even longer. Second, core for whom? For who is reading psychology books? Psychology faculty claim never to read books in psychology. Instead, they read journals and serials, articles. The books that they used to read were in monographic series, and so they know what those are, and they don't look outside. I'm not sure that they would consider them core. And then it's more likely that the people that are reading monographs are people outside of psychology who have some interest that's affiliated with psychology. So the core materials in psychology in a given year are likely not to be books. And what is psychology? Counseling, clinical, medical, pathology, developmental, cognitive, memory, personality, social psychology, intelligence, emotion, motivation, brain studies, neurology. The Elsevier Encyclopedia of the Social Sciences has 250 pages, starting with psyche, some aspects of psychology. The Macmillan 1968 version has 275. Wikipedia has a number of pages with affiliate links. Google has thousands of hits. And the APA, American Psychological Association, has 6 words defining psychology: the study of mind and behavior. But think what that encompasses. It's almost all of the social sciences. On Stanford, there are also some interesting interdisciplinary mixes that we think of as psychology. So think of core for these areas. A new interdisciplinary center for brain research that incorporates the psychology faculty, neurobiology, neurology, computer science, and electrical engineering. Psychology core for those different disciplines would be completely different, potentially. One would expect still to gather books on campus because there are lots and lots of other disciplines that use psychology in various ways. Think of law, education, poli-sci, econ, business, education, clearly. We might think in our current year, market psychology, what's going on right now, election psychology, what's going on right now, and the huge influence that psychology has had on political science and the market economics, and the reverse, what people do in political science or in politics and in business, influencing how people think about the psychologies of people and masses. I'd like to take an instant here to talk a little bit about what we're doing right here now. This is another kind of psychology that's changing as we have different media. The kind of affordances that this allows me to do and the kind of experience you're having of it. I use online, I teach online, I use chat reference, and there are lots of claims about are they as good as the face-to-face encounter, but what the better question is they do different things, and can we take advantage of the kinds of different things that those media allow and understand that instead of it being one or the other, it's various multiple channels of doing these kinds of activities in a digital way, in an online environment through various kinds of media, as opposed to doing it face-to-face. And it adds work. It always adds. It adds layers and it adds works, and it changes the nature of the encounter. And it's not so much that it's bad or good as much as there are differences. And the thing that we have to pay attention to, and that's why I'm asking you to think about this briefly as we talk. How are you judging what I'm doing now? Are you judging it differently? Would you rather read this than see this? What will be the difference? You won't be able to comment directly after you see the panel, but you will be able to comment directly on YouTube. And I'll be able to comment back and find out who those people are who questioned. So it's different. You know, we're still going to a conference. Am I at the conference? That's an open question. So it's kind of fun to think about this, and I think that one of the things when we get back to considering the core is this kind of psychology might be one of the most important things that's going on in our time as these major changes have happened in the 90s and toward the 21st century. The psychology that's examining this might be the kind of psychology that should be the core of what libraries are collecting now. And if you think of the longer term or some of the longer range studies that might be valuable in the future, they might be what psychologists are doing with brain. Are you processing this kind of presentation the same way as you would process a face-to-face presentation? Or how does media change the centers of the brain that are being used in processing? They've done lots and lots of work on that. It seems to be fascinating, and both of those areas, the longer range brain studies and the immediacy of how people are processing, are likely to have these key impacts on technologies, media, how computer software designers decide to do things, eye tracking and clicking through what do people prefer, and there'll be a feedback loop because those new technologies will then generate new studies about how does this kind of media affect what people are learning and how people learn in psychologies and things like that. So I think that one of the things that we might think of as the core and what a vendor might do or what a library might do is rather than worry too much, and we do worry that we're missing something somehow, rather than worry too much about the very last just-in-case item that we could have in our collection, we should instead worry about discovery, and discovery across this kind of span, this kind of spectrum that's now emerging. And notice that this is kind of a different sort of interdisciplinarity than the interdisciplinarity we might have seen like in biochemistry or where departments are formed, but rather this is a problem-oriented kind of interdisciplinarity. So if the vendor or the resource, the database that the vendor had could help librarians collate the problem across disciplines, so that what you want to not miss in this instance is there are various points of attack on this key challenge. And this would happen in environmental science, it would happen all sorts of other ways, but psychology is an interesting one because it moves across lots and lots of different disciplines, and it has an impact and an affiliate impact on lots of other disciplines. So to collate these kinds of like psychological aspect or something like that slightly differently now and think of it as problem-oriented, if there's some way to do that. And my suggestion is, are we then getting back to better subject tracings, thesauri, indices, synthetic structures that we can join larger and smaller concepts within the ways people are working with these kinds of psychology, and maybe that's closer to something we would like to see as a core in a comprehensive and in a really good library collection in psychology. So there's where I think I'm going to end with maybe it's not this comprehensive collection just in case, but instead discovery that we should focus on. Thank you. And thank you for putting up with this.